Everyone, and thanks for joining this latest SU Skills pitch-in on COVID-19 and how students' unions are responding to the crisis. This is going to be a bit like question time, but without the panel, whereas I guess you're actually going to be the audience and the panel, because it's about getting you guys to share how you're responding in your circumstances. And before we start, I'd just like to extend my own thoughts and best wishes to you and your families getting through this very challenging time. For those who don't know me, my name's Steve Coole, and I work as an external consultant in the SU sector through my company Coole Insight. And this session in particular has been designed to support a bit of research that I'm going to do over this period to log and monitor how students' unions are responding as organisations to the crisis, with the view to publishing that into some kind of resource that should be of use to SUs afterwards, so we can record this time of significant time actually in our history. And have a look at what the new landscape will look like. So in true pitching style, I'll kind of facilitate a conversation so we can hear from every SU in the room, or as many as we can. So I think we've got about 32 registered, so quite a lot to get through. So we might have to change the format slightly, because the key thing today is just to hear from as many people as possible. There'll be opportunities after the session for follow-ups and for questions to be asked as well. So today, for example, hearing from SUs around what it's like working from home. We know there's students volunteering in communities, there's students complaining about the impact on their experience, their accommodation, there's issues around international students, student numbers, university funding, commercial outlets in some bigger students' unions as well. There's a ton of challenges currently facing the sector in a very unprecedented way. And we've all said that word, I think, a few times over the past few weeks. So without further ado, I'm going to go into the conversation and invite you to speak. Just before you speak, I'll invite each union one by one. If you just say your name and your role from your students' union, and just remember to press the space bar as well to unmute yourself before you begin talking. You can also pass if you don't want to contribute, or you just want to listen in. That's absolutely fine. There's no pressure on speaking. But the things I'm really keen to hear from you all are kind of the biggest issues or challenges you've faced so far. Ideally some positive stories as well, so positive things that students are doing in response to this, and positive things your union is doing. There'll be new ways of working, the university partnership will have been brought into the spotlight, and yeah, basically I'd also like to ask if there's any questions you want to ask the rest of the group that you would like to answer about how people are kind of responding to this crisis. So without further ado, we'll now move over to my list. Can we first go, it feels like Eurovision in some ways, can we first go to Dundee Students Association, please? Are you in the room?
Yes, I am. It's Joshua Connor, president of DUSA. Yes, it's been an interesting time for us. One way that obviously we have had to move is obviously, the same as everyone else, has been to move to online delivery of our support services. So what we are trying to do is ensure that the welfare advice that we give, the housing advice that we give, which has been really, really crucial for the last few days, as students are trying to give their notice in, but some landlords are not necessarily being very receptive to that, and the PBSAs are causing a bit of headache as well. And our academic advice, obviously, as the university moved to this very new way of working and how they deliver their teaching and activities online, we're also trying to keep up with the new regulations of how we do that. So that's been a real challenge. There's been some really good stuff coming out of it though as well. We do have a raising and giving campaign that one of our non-SABs runs. Obviously the fundraising aspect of that has come out of it now and is working more about getting students who are staying in Dundee, either that being on campus or in the city, to help in the local effort of providing support to the local community, which has been really nice to see. One area of challenge that we are having in the student support space is how we foster this idea of an online community and how we keep that going and ensure that students still have the accessibility to the officers whilst being across the world at the moment. And then there's the more practical aspects of how we support students, particularly in the international spaces online, who may not have the bandwidth for internet as we would have here. So that's been a real challenge, but working with the university, they've been quite receptive to that. Dundee is quite a commercial-based union. We pretty much rely on our commercial space. So when all this kicked off, one event that would have brought us in £71,000 had to be cancelled, which is fine. We did it for the safety of our students, but the financial impact is going to be absolutely massive for us, and particularly with Dundee in a structural deficit. I'm not entirely sure how they're going to be able to support us as well at the moment. So that is a big concern. But we are doing what we can to mitigate against those. The job scheme's been really, really useful. But yeah, I think there's a lot of questions and a lot of challenges, and I suppose, interested to hear what other colleagues across the sector are doing to inform some of our planning as well.
Great, thanks, Joshua. Is there any specific questions or challenges you'd like to hear, or is it just generally wanting to hear from others?
Just to hear from others. I mean, I'm sure they'll all have their unique ways of doing it, and indeed,
sure,
they'll have their own ways of working.
Okay, great. Thanks for that contribution. Thank you very much. And from Dundee, we'll now go to Manchester Met, if you're in the room. Manchester Metropolitan.
So I'm Jessica. I can see that there's a couple of us in here. So I'm the Volunteering and Community Action Manager at MMU. I can also see that I think Joseph's in here, and Joseph, who's in marketing, and Lisa, who is our voice manager. Lisa's probably got some stuff to say as well. From an opportunities perspective, we've been trying to do a little bit for students around volunteering, so trying to get some content up on our website, hopefully this week, around what students can do in their local community. Because obviously, as all of us are, we're finding that lots of our local partners at the moment are very much in crisis mode. And the normal roles that our students would be partaking in are not happening or aren't safe to happen. So we've tried to get some content out around that. And also we're just trying to keep in touch with our student groups. But I think with student groups, we've been trying to make sure that they have all the resources that they need to do some online activity with their members. I don't know if there's anyone from student groups in here. I can't see if there is, but I know that that's a challenge that we're certainly facing, but students will start to do some of that stuff naturally themselves. But it's about also bringing that together. So we've been looking at ways that we can bring together all the little bits of activity that different student groups are doing into some kind of community format. So from an opportunities perspective, I think that's what we've got going on. If I mute myself, Lisa or Joseph, do you want to chat about what's going on in your areas?
Joseph, do you want to go first?
Don't forget to press spacebar to unmute yourself.
Joseph, spacebar. Are you there?
Hello.
I don't know. Hi, Joseph.
Hi guys. Sorry, I'm just in the middle of doing something else. I'm just listening in more than anything. So, sorry, I missed that last bit. What were you hoping for? What were you wanting me to update on?
So we just heard from your colleagues around kind of how the SU has been responding from an opportunities point of view. Is there anything for you to add to that in terms of how Manchester Met are responding?
I think the main thing for us is just making sure we've got coherent updates on what's going on from an academic perspective, and trying to juggle all these different sources of information that are really confusing and are coming through in dribs and drabs. So our main focus is just getting all the relevant information in as clearer and easy way as possible to students all the time. So it's like constantly updating articles, information sources, and what the student officers are doing and what the union is doing. So that's our main sort of focus in terms of what we're doing. Channel-wise, we're just going through all of our usual channels and mainly focus on having like core articles as the main correct bits of information, but also using social media to sort of get across points in a little bit of a clearer and easier to read and understand way.
Sure. And is there anything, Joseph, that you're interested to hear from other SUs specifically around any particular challenges you're facing that you wonder how other people are approaching them?
I think not specifically, but I was just interested to sort of hear other people's approaches and what they're doing so far, and what their challenges perhaps are, if they've heard it, if they're getting much feedback from students on what they want to hear about, or what things specifically everyone's working on.
Okay, no problem. Thanks very much.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Cheers, Joseph. Can we go to York SU, please? In the room. I can hear something. Press spacebar. Anyone from York SU? Okay, I think we'll move on then to Birkbeck. Anyone from Birkbeck? Okay, we'll try UCASU, my old students' union. Are you in the room? Okay. Remember to press spacebar if you are in the room and you're on mute. Bishop Cross Test, are you in the room?
Yes, we are. Hello.
Ah, hello. There we go. We have life. Fantastic. I was getting worried then. I thought got into some kind of online isolation. Okay, thanks, Kieran. Do you want to take the floor?
Yeah, hi. I'm Kieran. I'm the marketing and events coordinator from BG Students Union. It's been pretty tough for us, I won't lie. It's our first year in commerciality, and so we've just opened our bar, and we were really reliant on a load of events over summer, which the old bar owners used to use to turn a profit, and obviously they've all been cancelled now. So it's not great for our first year, but luckily we've sort of got the reserves to keep us going on that one and keep providing the services we do. I think the main thing we've been dealing with is rent, which I imagine most students' unions here probably have been dealing with. Quite similar to Joshua, we've got issues where landlords are refusing to do early releases on their contracts. We've had a few people who want to not go into their second year in their accommodation, if that makes sense. And the landlords are also refusing to do that. So we've been sort of really focused on helping with those. We work with a really fantastic partner called Crib Advisor. They're run by students in Lincoln, and they've sort of been dealing with all sorts of issues. They've got really good at help articles on their pages, because they've been talking to sort of housing lawyers, stuff that goes over my head, but they sort of have a fairly good knowledge of that. And sort of something we're here to look at is how people are dealing with signposting, because a lot of our students that we help on a regular basis, it's really difficult to stay in contact with them, especially when you sort of use your face-to-face meetings to sort of establish how they're getting along with their academic work, with their mental well-being, their physical well-being. So I just sort of want to see what people are doing to sort of help keep that in check.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? How to signpost when you're signposted into a non-physical space, aren't you? I suppose with those, that is really challenging. Hopefully, someone might have a solution in the room for you on there. But again, if we don't get to cover any answers to that, we'll follow up after the session as well. And there's also on the chat as well. So I think someone's just noted now, Emma Farley there. So there are opportunities to share on the chat if you've got a solution to any of the questions or points people are raising. So thanks for that, Kieran. Appreciate that. Okay, Sunderland SU. Do we have Sunderland in the room? Going once and twice. Canterbury Christchurch or Cornwall College SU, so CCSU, so it could be either of those. Or
Christchurch, hello.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Over to you, Kate. How you doing?
I'm Kate, I'm the Deputy Chief Executive Christchurch. We've actually been quite fortunate because we found it reasonably easy to move to working from home, because our Chief Exec, Ben, basically has shares in Google, and we do all our work in the cloud anyway. Some of us work from home 1 or 2 days a week at the moment, so the move for everyone working from home was actually all right. Would recommend Google for kind of collaborative working and stuff. I think the biggest challenge is around uncertainty, and it is for everyone. Like, no one knows how long this is going on for. We're obviously asking the university questions about finances for next year, and even whether they're planning to teach online or face-to-face from September. And obviously they don't know the answer to those questions, which makes it really hard for us to plan for what we're going to do with students as well. And again, that'll be the same for everyone. We have had some really nice positives though. So we've obviously, as everyone has, had to move towards doing different things online and trying to engage students in different ways. And there's a number of things that we have done that we actually want to retain when we go back to face-to-face working, because we think they attracted people who might not come to our face-to-face events or might not join our clubs or societies. So that's been good. But we've particularly been working this week on students who've had a lot of concerns about their exams and assessments and how they're going to work. We had a number of petitions going around asking for a safety net, which basically guarantees that you do your exams in semester 2, but you won't get graded for the year less than you did for your semester 1 average, if that makes sense. So we've actually found the universities really valued us gathering student feedback quite quickly. We managed to get over 100 responses to a survey we wrapped out in a day. But the university have been really great at working with us and trying to assuage what students are saying about their exams and assessments. So that's been a positive, and I got to talk about assessment again, which is always fun. In terms of questions I had for others, my main thing that I'm picking up at the moment is looking at officer induction. And I'm sure that everyone will be thinking, oh God, how do we induct our new SAB teams when everything might be online for 3 or 4 months? So at the moment, I'm planning for hopefully our normal lead and change residential, possibly some external stuff too, but looking into backups. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. So I'm sure there's got to be some kind of collaborative working that we as student unions could do to induct all our officers. I don't have any massive ideas about that, but if anyone does, that'd be great.
Okay, great stuff. Thanks. Obviously, I'm coming across as well as a consultant in that kind of space. So I'll get back to you offline, or anyone else who wants to know more about how I'm talking to my other current clients in that space. So, and how we're looking to approach it, because yes, some of the impacts I'm sure myself and other colleagues are facing as well. How do we deliver part of our service offer to student unions? So thanks for that, Kate. That's really helpful. We're now going to go to South Bank. Do we have South Bank in the room?
Hi, yes. Hi, my name's Pippa. I'm project officer. I'm part of the team, the interim team that's been working on turnaround at South Bank since December. In response to the provocations that you put out, we have been very pragmatic in our response and led by the institution, given our current state of turnaround. So we've followed the institution's lead in terms of health and safety, and we've been reporting any cases of self-isolation raised with us to them, which I imagine will be the same in other unions. Given our unusual situation, we've been liaising with our senior lead at the institution and with the president, sitting on the university's weekly and then daily response committee. What we've done differently in response to this, we've had to close all of our physical presence. However, we had already shut down our shop due to the turnaround. So we've shut down sports and societies. We're looking at what other unions are doing in terms of providing students with some support and activities virtually, but there isn't really a strong culture of that at South Bank, so that's a challenge that we face, and we continue to have quite limited engagement with students. Financially, we've agreed with the university to honour the rest of our year payments of the block grant, given our unique situation, but we're in the middle of a block grant negotiation with the university, and we are currently modelling refund liability for activities and sports. And then in terms of some good news and improvements, we've installed weekly check-ins and check-outs with our remaining staff, and we've been supporting them by developing a new overarching weekly plan with key targets for everyone to contribute to for the week and individual goals to help focus and drive support and engagement. We're also currently looking at mental health support and other support as the crisis continues. And then, yeah, just a general question, how do we learn best from our current experiences to prepare for the next crisis?
Yes, very important. Thank you for that. Also, you mentioned check-ins with employees. A sabbatical officers included in that, because one of the key things I've been speaking to students' unions around is kind of those officers coming towards the end of the year, and there is a risk here that officers could fall off the end of a cliff, basically, with it coming, the last 3 months of their time in office. How do we make sure that those student officers are still getting pastoral support, but also support to exit the organisations effectively? Within student unions, it'd be very easy, I think, to be, quite understandably with the crisis the way it is, to be distracted, sidetracked from officers and forget about them. So I wonder if there's anything you could add on that point as well.
Yeah, precisely. So the SABs are included in that weekly check-in and check-out, and we've worked with them to create a plan of work. But again, that is a question that's on our mind as well. So it'd be interested to see what other people have to say on that.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you, Pippa. We'll now go to City. Do we have City SU? Press spacebar. Or not in the room. Solent SU. Bristol SU. Sheffield Hallam. Come on, need someone.
Hello, Douglas here from Sheffield Hallam.
Douglas,
I'm all right, thank you.
Good. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for putting this on, and thank you, Andrew, as well, for putting this on. So I guess, not trying to repeat everybody else's issues. Everyone is in a similar situation. So yeah, our issues really, which are for us, we have quite a lot of international students, like a lot of other universities will have, and we are really trying to focus on how we can best support international students in this time. So it's about asking what other people are doing around international students and how we're supporting them. In terms of staff support, I think it's been quite a whirlwind trying to support a lot of staff through the transition to remote working. What I have definitely found useful through the transition has been trying to leverage some technologies to help with that. So we within my team, so at the moment I am an interim head of student opportunities. So I've got about 12 members of staff, permanent staff plus student staff gets to about 20. So it's kind of like, how do we manage all of those people and helping everyone to be on the same page? And one thing that we've been able to use is to leverage project management cloud-based services. So we use ClickUp, which has been really good in helping us to project manage and a lot of those tasks without everyone being there, and having those chats about particular tasks going on. So that's been quite useful in terms of like managing big projects, especially now we're looking at which I'm assuming most SUs are doing, which is looking at planning virtual celebration events at some point. I guess with the celebration events, my other question is, which my team have been kind of like talking about, is how do you pitch celebration events in a way that doesn't seem almost like tone deaf or insensitive because of everything that's going on at the time? How would you do it in a way that is positive and celebratory and injects positivity into what is a crazy situation that we all are living in through. So there's that, and I'm guessing it's kind of like a marketing question as well, I guess, in a way. So that's what we're doing here in terms of stuff. But it's been really, really, the whole thing has been really bizarre, but there's a lot of positivity and great ideas have come out of it. And I strongly believe that as student unions, the way we do things now, and with all businesses across the country, the way we do things is not going to be the same when we go forward. So yeah, so that's always a good thing.
Good stuff. And how's the relationship been with the university? How have you worked with the university through this?
Our relationship with the university has been quite good. We've been talking quite closely with everyone within the university leadership team. We've had presence on the university's kind of like coronavirus group, crisis management group. So our chief exec has been privileged to be on that group and working with university leaders to coordinate responses as to what they're doing. So that's been that's been good, and we haven't been left out of conversations, and they've been very open to listening to what the union is doing, and they've also been very encouraging in empowering us to grab a lot of feedback from students about what issues are coming out for them through this particular crisis. So that's been encouraging. So yeah, our relationship with the university, I believe, has been quite positive through this whole crisis.
Good. And sorry, Douglas, one final thing I was going to ask you. Actually, Sheffield Hallam's one of the larger unions that operates big commercial services. And how's the SU responded to that side of things?
Well, we basically have had to take the decision, like most people, is to just close our commercial offer. It's been encouraging to have the new kind of like government policies that have been put in, like furloughing staff. That's going to be quite helpful to us in terms of like a lot of commercial staff or staff that can't do their job without being in the building. We'll be able to have that. But yeah, for us, I guess commercially, we're not in the same position as I think another previous SU has said, that they rely heavily on their commercial offer. We do have quite a decent commercial offer, but we don't rely on it that much. So for us, we see it as another service that helps provide an experience for students. But it has been tough on everyone, really, looking at how we do that. And we've been going through a 5-year strategy development for the last 6 months anyway, and a lot of stuff around our commercial offer will be changing anyway going forward. So this has been kind of an interesting time as well, to just kind of like look at what that actually means as well.
Sure. Okay, thanks for that. That's really helpful.
Thank you.
We've got Demopfort in the room. Demopfort? No, we'll go to Reading. Reading SU. Remember to press the space bar if you're there. Durham SU.
Yes, we're here. It's Kirsty.
Great.
Hi.
Hi, Kirsty.
Hello. Hope you're all well. Couple of things we've been doing. We've been focusing on our student groups and their AGMs and handover, because that would have been happening next term, and trying to help them facilitate that online in the best way possible. So trying to do some how-to guides. Also here at Durham Collegiate, we've been doing some sharing of good practice across the colleges and with the sports teams. And are very much part of the university's wider student experience strategy, and try and move next line and what that means. We closed down all of our commercial services 2 weeks ago, and we are obviously taking a furlough scheme for student staff, but all of our commercial staff as well. And our advice service is working hard with private landlords and with the university, because our first year and third years are mostly in college accommodation. So looking at what that looks like. And yesterday we just had a meeting about the numbers that were left in the university estate or in Durham itself, because they hadn't been able to make it home, and the support that the university are putting in place for them as well. I know that one of my other colleagues, Kirsty, and she came after me, so I am the first Kirsty at Durham, is also on this call, so I'll pass it to her, because she's doing some stakeholder issue mapping as well. So over to you, Kirsty.
Thanks, Kirsty.
Hi, this is Kirsty number 2. So, yeah, I'm the marketing manager at Durham Student Union. So we've been busy trying to pull together some strategic goals on for now really, and going forward, just in terms of we've been pulling together like a response team, so we kind of get that information from all across the organisation, because obviously it's difficult to do that when you're not we're normally in a big open plan office, and just trying how we kind of gather that information, and so we kind of know what our stakeholders are, what their issues are, and how we can create some core messaging which is kind of consistent across all them different stakeholders, but that we are actually dealing with some of the issues that people are being affected by. My team quite like to come up with creative ideas and different ideas, so we're really keen on supporting some stay-at-home stories from our student groups and trying to create some positive comms on the back of this, but we're mindful to keep that very student-led, and so we don't come across as being quite patronising, I suppose, to like what some people have mentioned already about the crisis that's going on. And that it's really affecting people and really affecting students, but we're trying to, not struggling I suppose, but yeah, I suppose some of out of today's session it'd be nice to find out how we can kind of get that balance right.
In terms of, can you expand on that a little bit please, in terms of the balance between
kind of some of the, for example, our key themes in our comms is around connecting, so the stay-at-home stories, trying to connect the student community together. How we're supporting students, so around the changes to assessments and exams and things, and also with the well-being, and also trying to inspire, so how we're going to celebrate student groups. We normally have awards going on in June, so it's the empowering students to make change, which is key, but we've recently gone through a difficult elections process. So I've noticed on DurFest there's a lot of petitions, a lot of students are kind of unhappy, obviously, about the situation. But so instead of kind of coming to the student union, they are going to a Durham kind of confession site to do that and air that. So it's trying to carefully respond to them issues that we're aware of, as I say, without kind of, but also try and put some positive things in there. That and we were promoting our advice service a lot, but yeah, we're just being mindful really of trying to kind of avoid any criticism of anything we put out from Durham SU, which may seem like we're being tone deaf to people's problems, where we're trying to be light-hearted.
Yeah, it's challenging. I think I'd be really interested to hear from colleagues on the call and further after the call as well, just around people who've maybe tried to continue with the current SU strategy as is or as was before this all hit, and who might have actually developed, an interim get in the trenches kind of strategy to get through this period. And because, as we know, like, when those strategies were developed, the world was a very different place. So how many have tried to just shoehorn that into online and continue versus actually we've got to do a brand new approach and think about dealing with what is on everyone's mind right now, which is obviously the crisis, and responding to that. So I'd be interested to hear if anyone's taken a more strategic approach or changed their strategy entirely, for example. But thanks for that, Kirsty. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that? No? Okay, good stuff. Thank you. And have we got Queen's Belfast in the room? I'm going to guess that QUBSU is Queen's, unless it's someone else. I apologise if I've got that wrong. Falmouth and Exeter, are you in the room? I think I've seen you chatting.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Hi. I'm Emma. I'm the first student. So I've got 3 updates that kind of differ from what other people have been talking about.
Right.
Our biggest concern is that we represent students from 2 different universities. Woo! And they have very different approaches in terms of their communications and how they're reacting to students as well. So Exeter had been very on it in terms of early stage newsletters out every single day to their students. Falmouth were a couple of weeks later. Exeter have enforced a no detriment policy. Falmouth haven't. Falmouth were also a week later on postponing their graduation. So trying to manage the student voice amongst that, where students are asking us, especially when they're living in shared accommodation as well. So you might have students in the same house where some are receiving information and some aren't. As a way of tackling that, we've launched a new online survey. I'll link it up in the notes in a bit if you guys want to have a look at that. So it means that any student at any given time can go to this survey and tell us what their 3 concerns are at that time, from teaching, resources, health and wellbeing, their future, money and that sort of thing. And it means we can capture that data every week and then present it and lobby the universities to act on the student voice. So that launched yesterday and has already had 300 responses.
Wow, right.
And the third thing is we will also this week launched a new welfare campaign called Isolation Not Isolated. So it's bringing all of our student groups together, creating online events and conversations. So they're sharing those on their own platforms to their own members, but we're also hosting Instagram takeovers. So we've got a different theme for each day of the week to cover students, whether they want to do a workout or be a bit more mindful, be creative, be motivated, do something fun. And those takeovers are kind of themed around those days as well. So students are already starting to book their takeovers for that to reach out to the wider student community. My internet connection is unstable. Sorry, he didn't catch half of that.
I certainly caught most of it, and I've seen a lot of contributions from yourselves on the chat, which will be available as well at the end of this with it being recorded. It's not just the video we captured the chat as well, which is really helpful. So thanks for that, Emma. That's particularly challenging circumstances, having to deal with two universities with two different approaches. A unique challenge to Falmouth and Exeter Students' Union. But yeah, we wish you all the best with that. And we'll go to Nottingham SU now. We've got Nottingham SU. Have we got Northumbria SU? North Kent College?
We've got Northumbria, there's three.
Northumbria. Sorry. So it's Northumbria first then, please. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, the space bar thing wasn't working, so I had to there was a bit of a delay, sorry. I'm Chrissy, I'm the Student Wellbeing and Resilience Manager at Northumbria, and there's a couple more of us on as well, so I'll pass over shortly. We've mostly been getting used to kind of working from home, which for membership services staff hasn't been too difficult on the whole, other than those of us with children or other people at home and distractions and things like that. For others, it's probably just been the adjustment of not trying to fill the day too much, but still trying to be productive and get bits and pieces done. Other things are happening with kind of our commercial services, again, similar to most unions. The building's closed, our commercial services stuff has pretty much stopped. In terms of communities with students, we set up, as a few other unions I think have, we set up a Facebook group, Northumbria's Corona community, and our sabbatical officers in particular have been fantastic on that. They've been really, really dedicated to answering people's queries, signposting people, putting content on there. So we've had cookery shows, keep fit classes, we're doing a virtual quiz that we would normally do in our bar, so they've been really fantastic with that. At the moment, I think on the whole we're trying to adjust as much of the existing work that we've got to go online and be able to deliver it that way. We are looking into starting to put a lot more of our training online and things like that, which may also then bleed into the new term, September onwards, depending, again, what's decided. Nothing's been decided at Northumbria either in terms of whether students will be on site or off site, but we're kind of trying to plan two ways really. So plan for a physical sort of freshers and students being there, but also a virtual version as well. We have more than the Newcastle campus, so we've got a campus in London and we've also got one in Amsterdam, so we're also trying to support students there. The intakes certainly at our London campus are very different, so we were due to have an intake in May. So again, we're working with the university and looking at how that's going to adjust and how that's all going to change and when those students are potentially going to be deferred to and how that's going to run. Trying to think if there's much else, to be honest. I'll hand over to Jamie, who's our advice and policy team leader, so she'll be able to go through some of the advice things that have been coming through.
Hi. So the kind of main queries we're getting at the moment was an issue about accommodations, about students wanting to leave accommodation have already left. So it's been agreed for all our university owned accommodation. They don't pay any fees for term 3, and we're negotiating with our private student accommodation and private accommodation in the community, trying to negotiate them to not stop paying their rent. Other than that, it's just obviously students struggling with online lessons, especially students that are parents, got care responsibilities. The university on Monday released how they're going to do assessments for our semester 2. So what we've done is some students that are obviously difficult to understand the language that the university have used. So myself, my colleague and the advice team, we've wrote a kind of simpler term, a statement, which is going to be released today, and that would be used for all staff to be used when they're advising sabbatical team as well. So it'll be going on our news story shortly. So everyone's kind of saying the same thing. But our main issues is just students struggling with online lessons and but accommodation as well.
I'll add something positive. Has anyone, student council or democracy bodies, improved with this? Because ours has. So we've had to move everything digitally, obviously. And one of those things is the student council and making sure that body still runs. And it was the best student council we ever had. So similar to what other people said, we may be looking at utilising digital spaces more. Then going back to the physical spaces. But the only other thing to add from what Chrissy and Jamie said is we're just trying to continue the digital celebrations we had planned. So award ceremonies, all of them are going ahead still on a digital platform. And we had similar issues to what Douglas was saying about, well, does anyone really care? Because they've got better things on their mind. But how we are trying to word it is, yes, this has hit us halfway through the academic year, but you still spent all of term one working your arses off basically in your rep roles or your society roles or whatever. And it's unfortunate this has happened, but we still believe you should be celebrated and credited for that. And we'll just have to see how it works digitally. We might afterwards think, oh God, no, but we still want to show those students that they should be appreciated for the hard work they've done this academic year up till now. But I think that's it from us really. Oh, I've just seen that question. I'll just answer it, Abby. I'm using Teams for student council. The majority of people have Teams over Zoom for some reason at Northumbria. So we decided just to use Teams and everyone liked it. So I think we're going to stick with it.
I think we might have lost Steve for a second, so I'm just gonna wait and see if he re-enters. I think he's having some problems with his signal. Just on what Georgia was saying there, the idea of a student council with a mute button and a 40-minute time limit is like a dream come true. So